The presentation is being set up. I would like to introduce speaker for the next 1 hour. Dr. Mrunal Patwardhan is academic program coordinator of PPCCLT, Parimal and Pramod Chaudhary Center for Learning and Teaching. She is PhD from Education Science and Technology from IIT Bombay, one of the first PhDs coming out of this department. She's an expert in education technology. Before doing her PhD, which she completed, I think 3 years back, she has a very rich experience in teaching. She's a faculty in electrical and electronics engineering. In Mumbai, she has taught in DJ Sanghvi College for 15 years. Before that, she has taught in other engineering college and 3 or 4 years of experience in industry. So she has a unique experience of industry, then teaching as a faculty member for several years in engineering college, and followed by a PhD in education technology. So she'll be talking about project-based active learning. So I'll hand over to Dr. Mrunal.
Good morning, all of you. A warm welcome to IIT Bombay. Thank you, Professor Patwardhan, for my introduction. This is something really a different experience that we all are going to experience as IIT Bombay. And I'm really happy and privileged to be a part of this experiment. Okay. So since the central theme of the workshop is all about active learning, perhaps it will make some sense for all of us to spend some time in understanding some basic concepts related to active learning. So the objective of this workshop is to make you aware about what is meant by active learning and prepare you so that you can understand what happens in the following sessions. You are able to exactly extract the features of these active learning from various sessions that you are going to have on day 1 as well as on day 2, and so that it will equip you, it will enable you to use these things into your sessions. Okay, so let's start. So if you remember, we have sent you a form, a feedback form that was administered to Google, and we asked more and more information about you, so that we just wanted to be well equipped, we wanted to understand you better. I've just picked up some 10 to 20% of the various phrases those were appearing from the in Google form, and just tried to create a word cloud. The only reason for creating was that we just wanted to understand the kind of diversity that we have among us. You come from different institutes, different program, different educational background. You are going to teach different kinds of students, different students with different attributes. Okay. Also, some of you might be teaching into institutes which follow academic autonomy. Some of the institutes where you are working, they might have a university affiliated setup. In spite of all this diversity, whatever diversity we may have, I think there is still a very, very common challenge that we all as teachers are facing, and it is this. How do we keep our students engaged with the content of our classroom? I think you all will agree to this, that this is a major problem. When with all that preparation, when we enter into a classroom, the students are also ready to learn, we are also ready to teach. But still, this is a major challenge every day, for every lecture, for every course, in every semester that you teach, we come across this kind of challenge. And this is the idea that how do we tackle this? So in this 1 hour session, we are just trying to see, is there any way to handle this challenge? Before that, see, this is a very global problem. This is a very universal problem. It's not something that you face into your classes, into your institutes, okay? But this is something has been reported globally in the literature which is available from education research, that, you know, this is a major challenge that all faculty. So in general, students capture only 20% and 20 to 40% of a lecture's main ideas through their notes. If we don't give them sufficient opportunities to reflect upon them, maybe over some more period of time, that will also become lesser and lesser. And the funniest part of the story is all instructors, including myself today here, we feel that my lecture is going to be exception for this. I know my students are very, very engaged into my classroom. They are paying so much of attention. But unfortunately, that is not the true story. So let us try to see further. So now let us try to peep into our classrooms, typically what happens. Now this is a very generic representation, right? Of course, there are exceptions for everything, but this is something typically happens. Students don't pay utmost attention throughout the lectures. Students think they understand since they can follow the lecture. I'm sure you all must be experiencing this. The moment you have covered some 5-10 minutes of syllabus or maybe 10-20 minutes and you ask the question, are you with me? Have you followed this? Everybody sitting in the class must be nodding their heads. So the moment you ask this question, have you understood this? Obviously the answer is going to be nothing other than, but yes. The reason being, then and there, they are not able to understand what they have understood and what they have not understood. So this is what typically happens. Difficult to ensure that all students in the class participate actively. Now this is another challenge. I mean, you could say that this is another facet of the challenge that we face. We have diverse crowd, right? So there are students, some are, you could say, comparatively fast learners. Some students might take more amount of time. In addition to that, they have their own interest, whatever may be the reason. But the point remains that not each and every student sitting in the classroom participates this way or participates actively into our classrooms. Okay. So obviously then who leads the class? The students who have high motivation for whatever reasons. So you ask a question and you know that every time you will see those 3-4 familiar faces raising their hands and giving some answers. This is what typically happens, right? Students with low achievements left behind, and that creates more and more problem, not just for them, but as teachers for us also it's going to create a problem. Another major challenge or the fact of the ground is, students have some kind of apprehension in interacting directly with faculty. See, at least from my experience, I can tell you that when you ask question that anybody has any doubt, nobody will say anything in the class. But at least there are some 5%, 10% of the students might be there who might come in person to you, when you are sitting into your cabin or into your office, and they might ask questions. Or if you are handling labs, during labs when comparatively there are less number of students, maybe 1 or 2 will try to approach you. So this is another problem, that they have some kind of apprehension while talking to instructors, that how do I tell that I have not understood this? So all these are the typical problems that we face into our classrooms. So what we are going to do, see, the idea is to find out some solution for this, because see, we are not happy with these problems, and obviously we don't want to continue with these problems, okay? Because in spite of putting efforts from our side, in spite of putting efforts from student side, if the things are not going the way they should be, there is a reason and there is a need that why we should find out what is going wrong and where. So what I am going to do here is, there are some 5 different teaching learning scenarios which will be put up here on this slide. Okay, you will have to read this, you have to go through this, and after that you are supposed to answer some question, right? But how you will do this, there is a typical way that we are going to follow. So let me just show you this first, and again I will come back to this slide. Okay, so here are these 5 scenarios. So whenever you come across this blue side, this is an indication that there is some activity that needs to be done. You all have writing material that is given to you, pen and notebook, okay, which you are going to make use of. So what you are going to do, take around 2 to 3 minutes, think individually, and go through the scenarios, write down what is changing from one scenario to other. Obviously, the 5 scenarios are not identical ones. They have some difference, okay? So what you will do is, you will go through all those 5 scenarios, right? And individually, without discussing with anybody, you will write down into your books that what is changing from one scenario to other. Have you understood what needs to be done? Any doubt in this, right? So let me go back and let me put now these scenarios in front of you. Remember 2 things. Everybody must participate, right? And this activity or this part of the activity needs to be done individually. Whatever is your own thinking, you please write down into your books. Read them, take your own time, and just write down your answers into your books. Let me go back. See what you can read here. So there is something changing. You have to write down what is that change happening from two perspectives. What teacher is doing and what students is doing. So how the role of teacher and how the role of student is changing from one scenario to another scenario. That is what you are supposed to find out. Is that okay? Everybody has understood this task? Yeah, let me go back to this now. Please remember, everybody has to write. Are we done? Okay, let's move on. So I assume everybody has written down some points, what you find that they are changing in all these scenarios from teacher's perspective as well as from student's perspective. Okay. Now what you are going to do is you are going to turn to your neighbor. Just find out neighbor from your right side, left side, back side, front, whatever it is. Okay, turn to your neighbor, right? And compare your answers, what you have written and what the other person has written. And then together come up with at least one change related to teacher, one change related to student. Okay? So now turn to your neighbor. You are free to talk as much as you want to talk regarding the topic that is given to you. Okay? Please turn to your neighbor. Yeah, so you can group it this way. So you have got neighbors? Sir, please. It's okay. It could be it could be a group of 3 also. If you don't find neighbor. Come up with one point. See what is written there. Together come up with at least one point which you think is changing from teacher's perspective and from student's perspective as you move from scenario 1 to scenario 2. Okay, I have again put up the scenarios in case if you want to refer to them. Madam, you are sharing your answer with whom? Huh? You discussed? Okay. Are you discussing with someone? Be in the group, okay? This is not an individual activity. Okay, so are you ready with your answers? Okay, let us come to the third phase of this activity. Still we are on blue slide, okay? So now let us hear from some of you that what is your observation, that what has been changing in these scenarios from teacher's perspective and from student's perspective. So maybe I'll note down some of the points. Okay, so let's start. Somebody from their side, please share your answers. Anybody can pick up. Yeah. Just be a little louder so that everybody is able to hear this. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Okay, so when you say teacher is more concerned about active learning, can you elaborate little that what exactly changed from teacher's perspective? We understand the thought process of the teacher, but how that got translated into actions? Can you come up with that? Maybe somebody else? Yes, please hand over the mic there.
In first situation, the teacher is just delivering what you want to deliver.
Okay.
Last, he is becoming judge and active participant of learning.
Okay.
And from student perspective, the students who are passive in starting, we cannot predict what students are doing. But up to last, students are involving and creating common solution.
Okay. Someone from this side again. Now say you should add to points something which has not been mentioned earlier. Come up with new points now.
In the first scenario, it was like only one way, like lecturing.
Okay.
There is no feedback or anything from the student. It is only going from teacher to the student.
Okay.
Whereas the second scenario, it is becoming two-way, right? Teacher is asking for the feedback
Hmm.
and clarifying the doubt and reviewing the feedback. So it is only two ways. Still, it is not improved.
Okay.
And the third way and both way, it has become like multiple way of transmitting the information. That means teacher gives information to the students and asking them to what you call as analyze among themselves and then again resume the lecture.
Okay.
So creating a little bit of cloud kind of thing, cloud thinking kind of.
Okay, so let's say there is some feedback mechanism which is working in the class. So can we hear somebody from this side, from this group? Just let me just cover this group, again I'll come back to you. Yeah. So one new word that I can pick up is maximum participation. Okay.
On the student side, we are getting deeper insight into what topic with active participation of each student and developing an attribute of working in a team from different views of a problem.
So more different views, more diverse conversation is happening in the class. That's what we feel. Okay, fine. Thank you. Somebody from your side, this group.
The best part of the last scenario is that students are becoming a part of the solution generating process. Because in all the other four scenarios, the teacher is asking the question and he is telling the solutions. The second, third, and fourth scenarios, he is getting the students more involved in the solution understanding process. But in the fifth, the students themselves are generating the solutions.
Students themselves are generating the solutions. So you could see that they are becoming more and more stakeholders in the learning process that is happening in the classroom. Okay. One more answer from this side, then I'll come back to you. One more answer from this side. So you wanted to speak? There is, yeah.
There is a peer discussion among students.
Peer discussion. So we could say that there is peer learning which is taking place. Okay.
Fourth point, students teachers point of view. Teacher presents some real life problem. So the student can be interested to get more involved in the.
So there are two things which have happened, what you are mentioning, that teacher is now moving towards more challenging, more interesting problems which are being discussed in the classroom, okay, and because of which obviously students are feeling more motivated and interested to learn, okay, fine. Yes, same point, okay, fine. Anybody has anything different to add to whatever has been mentioned just now? Sorry? Active teaching. Okay, I'll come to this word active very soon. Yeah.
When the teacher changes from scenario 2 to 3, he introduced the concept of homogeneity of the material among the students.
Okay. Can you elaborate? What do you mean by homogeneity?
All the students would need to have, in the scenario exactly, when only a few students were responding,
Okay.
he does them so that they all can discuss to make a homogeneous material so that material can be.
Okay, fine. So, see, initially perhaps students were withholding themselves from just simply answering the questions, but when you created more situations and opportunities to have more interaction, they become more and more participative. So I think more or less we have covered most of the points what we wanted to analyze from these scenarios, okay. So whenever we conduct workshop, these are similar kind of answers that we get. So what is happening here when you move from scenario 1 to scenario 5, more and more active learning is happening. So you are not expecting your students to be just passive listeners in the classroom, but you are kind of dragging them, you are stimulating them to be very actively to be part of the teaching learning process, what happens in the classroom. Okay, so let us get connected to the problem that we discussed in the beginning. So ultimately we want to solve this problem. We want maximum engagement of students with the content because it's a proven fact, or there is evidence which says that more and more engagement of students that leads to better and better learning. Ultimately, the whole objective of teaching learning process is to maximize learning what happens in the classrooms. Okay, so the solution lies in this. So this is one of the ways, you know, we could tackle this problem by introducing the concept and practicing active learning into our classrooms. So this was one feedback that I've collected from you, you know, that how much you know about active learning. So in a way, you could see that very few people have heard of this phrase. Many of them have heard this phrase, but they don't know how to implement this. So I think that this exercise what we are trying to implement for next 5 days is definitely going to be very, very beneficial for all of you. Okay, so let us now try to get some, you know, theoretical aspect of it. So what is active learning? Basically, active learning refers to instructional strategies. What do you mean by instructional strategies? Let me make it further simple. The way you deliver content, the way you teach into your classroom. That is what we mean by instructional strategies. Okay. So active learning involves instructional strategies wherein students go beyond listening, copying notes, execution of prescribed procedure. So they no more behave only as do as directed mode. Okay. Instructor design activities that require majority of students to talk, write, reflect and express their thinking. So there is lot of stimulation which goes for students to become more and more participative in this process. And why we are so much worried about implementing this, or why we want to push it so much, you know, for the simple reason. There are two major reasons we could say that. Explicitly based on theories of learning. So this is not somebody thinks, you know, that, oh, this should work. It's not that way. For last 3 to 4 decades, there has been very scientific studies which have been conducted and which have proved efficacy of these strategies. That is point number 1. And point number 2 is, you know, this is point number 2. And the earlier point was that they are based on how people learn. So there is a lot of scientific base which comes from theory, from cognitive science and how people learn or how exactly the learning happens. So that's the reason we want to emphasize, or the reason why NPIU has selected this theme, because this is one solution, one way of approaching the problem that we face into our classrooms. Okay, but see, we all are passionate about what we do, isn't it? We all want to be good teachers, irrespective of whichever institute you may be. See, even if you go from one institute to other institute, the skills that you develop as teachers, you are going to carry them with you. Nobody is going to take it back from you. Okay, that's the reason we are so much worried about what we do. Our students are also good. They are also coming here and, you know, they are also trying to learn new things. So it's not that we are not putting efforts, right? So when we say something, it's not to undermine or under-evaluate efforts which have been put in by faculty and students. So we also do many things, isn't it? These are very common things that we try to do. So I often pause to ask my students if they understood the material, right? I allow students to interrupt when they have doubts, resolve their doubts. Every time we say, if you have any doubts, stop me. If by some reason, if I'm not able to answer your question right now at this moment, I'm available at so and so time. So we are very, you know, open to our students. We try to use various resources also in terms of visualizations or simulations, virtual labs, so many resources we are using. Okay. So now, if we are already doing this, but still perhaps, you know, there is some issue. So let us try to answer this question. Are students doing active learning if I do the following? So there are 4 things, A, B, C, D, and following are the answers. So what you have to do is, whatever answer you feel which is appropriate from this, from 1, 2, 3, 4, here at the bottom. Okay, so these answers, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever you think that this is an appropriate answer, you are going to give me that answer, not verbally, but by voting. So how are you going to vote? So 1, 2, 3, 4, these could be options. So just whatever answer is your answer, hold your finger like this, not here, not here. It's only that I should be able to see. So hold your finger like this. So if your answer is 1, hold it like this. If your answer is 2, hold it like this. Okay? And again, the rule of this game is everybody has to vote. So you can't escape from this. Okay. So go through all the options and give me your vote. I'm not able to see everybody's vote still. hold it properly. I should be able to see. Just don't hold it for a fraction of seconds. I'm doing some mental calculations with this. Sir, I'm not able to see your vote, sir. Yeah, thank you. Okay. So I could see diverse opinions or diverse answers here, which means the class is, we all are not on the same page. There are different answers, everybody thinks that's correct. So which means I need to give some more time to resolve this issue. So how do we do this? I put again whatever we defined as active learning in front of you. Read this properly. Now discuss with your neighbor. Find out a person who has given a different answer. Share your answer out of the options. Find out a person who has given different answer. Either you convince that person or you get convinced by the other person. You understood what it is? So now I expect you people to discuss among yourselves, and then again I'll ask you the same question. So now it's time for you to discuss. Okay. So same question, re-vote. So now again give your answer by voting, and same method, hold your answer, hold your option like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever is your answer. I should be able to see everybody's answer. I'm not able to see anybody's answer over here. Okay, still I see some more different opinions. So the correct answer here is C, only. Let us just spend half a minute. We are just running short of time, so let us just spend half a minute to understand this. I often pause to ask students if they understand the material. You know what happens in this scenario? Will you call this as active learning? What happens in this scenario when you pose this question, right? I often pause to ask students if they understood the material. What answer you get from the students? Yes. So are you sure that they have understood? They themselves are not sure whether they have understood or not. So obviously the first one we will not qualify as active learning. I allow students to interrupt whenever they have doubts, resolve their doubts before proceeding further. I never hesitate to answer their question. Obviously this is a very good quality for a teacher. But what happens here? Who asks questions? Either no one or only those motivated students, they will ask you the questions. You will not expect participation from the entire class. And the whole idea of active learning is that we want more and more, in fact maximum, entire students to be participative in the learning process. Okay? Look at this. I give them activity to do in the class, provide feedback before proceeding further. So what do you see here? It's not that teacher is going into a monologue. It's not unidirectional conversation which is happening. There is some activity. Just now you experience some kind of 2 activities right now, right? And I'm giving you feedback about what happens to resolve the issues, whatever, and then only I'm going to move forward. We have been saying this all the time. Practice makes man perfect, but there is some more correction which is required here. Practice with feedback makes man perfect. What is the point in practicing something which is incorrect? So you are kind of making that incorrect thing only as your habit. So this feedback which goes from maybe faculty to students or student to student, that is something is very important. I pause and show them demos, videos and simulations. Again, what happens in this case? Students see something, okay? But you never know whether they are seeing it only from entertainment purpose or they are really learning from it. So we will give you some indicators to understand how to ensure that you are getting engaged into the practices of active learning. Okay, so let's move on. So what happens, see we pipped into our traditional classrooms. Let's try to pip into these active learning classrooms. Students engage in problem solving activities during lectures. So it's not that teacher solving problem on the board and students only copying. Students work collaboratively. We want to use the potential what collaborative learning offers. They Students are asked to figure things out for themselves. See, this was a different topic, but the scenarios that I put in front of you, I didn't tell you that what was changing from scenario 1 to scenario 5. You yourself came up with the answers, right? Students are asked to express their reasoning explicitly. See, engineering profession is all about more and more analytical thinking, creative thinking, and for which obviously we want to develop their reasoning ability, right? So obviously the tasks that you put, the problems that you put, they try to nurture or they try to stimulate the reasoning ability of students. Qualitative reasoning, conceptual thinking are emphasized. We don't want to get involved into or design an active learning strategy just to memorize factual data. That's not engineering profession is all about, right? So obviously the task that we want to, or where do we want to use active learning, where obviously we want to make use of all these features. Students, specific students' ideas are elicited, addressed, and they receive rapid feedback on their work. So it's not one way, but there is a complete closed loop which happens in the classroom. So what happens because of this, you could expect more and more participation. You are able to understand what misconceptions students are carrying, right? And obviously, from students' point of view, instead of they just thinking that I have understood, they really come to know that have I really understood this or not, because you are checking their understanding in the class itself. Okay. Now see, whatever we were talking about active learning for last 15-20 minutes or so, how many times our sentences were like teacher does XYZ or teacher will do XYZ? Can you recall last 15-20 minutes? Okay, so what was focused? It's not about what teacher does in the class, it's all about what students do in the class, or what teacher stimulates students to do in the class. So that is the basic way of which differentiates between passive learning and active learning. So it is all about what learners do to learn. Let me take just 1 minute to ask you a very simple question here. Just identify one thing in which you think that you are expert. It could be anything. It could be cooking, cycling, swimming, singing, dancing, whatever it may be. Just one thing. Identify one area in which you think you are an expert. You don't have to answer to me. I'll ask you a follow-up question. Right? So somebody may say swimming, dancing, creating, painting, whatever it is. Now, do you think that you became an expert simply by listening to somebody into that? Just by watching videos how people swim, did you become expert in swimming? So what made you an expert? You did that. And if the learning is all about taking novice learners to become an expert, we must create enough opportunities into our classroom where students do something. So it's not about what I do in my class. It's not about what I teach. It's all about how they learn. What I do to make them learn, what activities I design for them. So this is the basic philosophy of active learning. Okay, so instead of thinking your lecture plan in terms of what I will do, now you have to change your mindset to think what my students will do when I go to the class. So this one change you will bring very drastic, positive change into your experience, into your own classrooms. Okay, let me just quickly skip to these slides. This is a data which comes from education research, and so this is not something that somebody thinks that active learning works. These slides are simply to tell you that how rigorous research has been done about these active learning strategies in the past. This second slide which talks about specifically the fields which are of our interest. That is science, engineering, mathematics and technology, what we call as STEM, right? So this is something, is a very, you could say, a sound platform that we have which tells us, what works and what doesn't work. And that's the reason we have more and more buy-in for promoting these kind of strategies. Okay. See, Herbert Simon was a father of cognitive science, right? And he was a Nobel laureate. And just read this statement and this will make you understand, why active learning should work. So he says, learning results from what the student does and thinks, and only from what the student does and thinks. The teacher can advance learning only by influencing what the student does to learn. So are you able to understand how our role is changing now? We are moving towards becoming facilitators of learning in the classrooms. Okay? Because we are, so instead of, as they say, being a saga on the stage, let us be guide along with them. So that is how we have to bring this change into our thinking. Okay. So now again, this question we have to answer many times. Say, why active learning? I mean, why now we should talk about active learning? People have been learning from centuries together, right? But things have changed. We all know that. We have moved into a different environment altogether. So if we try to, I will, maybe not for your generation, but definitely for my generation, I would say that this was the scenario. No internet, no email. The only way of getting information was through the teachers who were in the class. The books in the library, only hard copy, right? So that was the only way that the knowledge was limited. The access to knowledge was limited. Not that knowledge was limited, but I would say the access to knowledge was limited. So these were the days, where information was at a premium. So obviously there are no internet, expensive books, limited access to libraries. So here, that time, the role of teacher was more to transmit information because students didn't have the information. So the role was teacher was more to give that information, transmit that information. But see now how the scenarios have changed. Information is no longer at a premium. There are lots of accessible videos, information, everything is freely available on internet, right? Perhaps, we are standing at that time, where perhaps our students, perhaps sometimes they know more, they have more information. I won't call it as a knowledge, but at least I would say they have more information than we had in terms of technology, in terms of day-to-day happening, right? Latest trends, everything they know. So what is our role in that case? That we will have to think, that how we have to now change our role from what we were 20 years before and now. So it is necessary for a teacher to ensure that students are able to assimilate the information through appropriate practice during the lecture itself. See, the last phase is very important. If you leave this opportunity of giving practice in the class itself, it's not going to help you, because after they're not going to open the books, they're not going to see what it is unless you announce some examination, right? Deadlines are the best motivators for any human beings. Right? So unless you put some deadline, things are not going to go. So we have to create these opportunities in the classroom where we give them opportunity to apply what they have been learning by giving appropriate tasks. So this is what we called as changing our focus from teacher-centered pedagogy to student-centered pedagogy. Okay? And one way of doing this is, instead of simply, transmitting information, simply lecturing in the class, giving direct instruction, do this, this is the problem, do this, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Instead of doing this, we have to change this. See, when I say so, it doesn't mean that you should not lecture at all. So there are some disclaimers that I'll come to that and I'll explain what they are. Okay, so we should think more about peer activities, peer learning opportunities, active learning and collaborative learning, and this is how we should change our focus from teacher-centered pedagogy to student-centered learning process. Okay, so how now? So this is all about what is active learning, why active learning. Now how to do this? Ultimately, you all are here to do this into your classes. So let us spend some time for this also. So there are various strategies which have been documented. We will make available the relevant material through Moodle. At least 2 activities you experienced just now. The first activity that you experienced was Think, Pair, Share, which is called as TPS. I gave you 5 scenarios, right? So where you individually thought about it, then you collaborated with your peers, and then the entire discussion was shared in the classroom. So that activity is called as TPS. So are you able to recollect this slide, right? Where the activity what you did in the initial part of the session. Another activity what you did, or you at the active learning strategy, that is called as peer instruction. A very, very powerful and very popular active learning strategy, especially in engineering education. Professor Eric Mazur, he has come up with this strategy. So when he himself realized that I have been a great teacher of physics, but still my students are not learning anything, and that was very obvious from the scores. So he, went deeper into it, and he came up with this strategy which is called as peer instruction. So the material which I have shared with you all on Moodle, there are some videos directly, short videos, 2 to 3 minutes videos from Professor Eric Mazur, where he himself talks that how this peer instruction activity has helped him in his physics classes. Apart from that, there are many, right? So in the next 2 days, you will come across many such innovative ways of understanding or taking these concepts across your students. So as you could say, just a quick overview of this. This is what you did in peer instruction. I asked you a question, you voted individually. When I saw diverse opinions, that means there is some discussion which was required, so I allowed you to interact with each other. You re-voted again, and then it was my role only to debrief the class discussion. Okay? Next activity, so here this is a very nice way, these are actual snaps of this PI being into action at Kanpur in one of the teaching centers for 12th standard physics. So what I want you to observe here is this. See what they have done, instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, they had given some different color cards to students. So, for option 1, there is one color. And you could see that in the first one, there are a lot of variation in the colors that you see, which means students have different opinions. They are not directly able to give the correct answer. So then this time which was given to them for a peer discussion, right? And later on you could see, so initially the yellow color cards, which was the correct option, was 50%. You could see that moved to 80%. So this is how students on their own are able to come up, understand whatever is the problem. And this is obviously is the heart of this activity, what we call as peer discussion. We looked at this also. Okay, so now a quick view about how you will go about these kind of activities. So when you are going to go for active learning lecture plan, this is the first thing that you will have to ask yourself. Am I planning my lecture still with, I will do this, I will do that, I will solve this problem, I will show this, right? If that is the case, then it is still an indication of teacher-centered lecture, okay? Instead of that, think in this way. What I will make my students do, or what students will do. So that's it, one simple, you could say as a indicator that you can apply when you start thinking about how you are going to plan your session. Okay, see now, irrespective of whatever topic you teach, whichever class you teach, whichever students, whether it's a BTech program, MTech program, some PhD courses, whatever it may be, I think these are 3 basic things that we all, think about as teachers. What students should be able to do. So at the end of this session, or by the end of this session, what is that my students should be able to do? We don't go aimless or objectiveless in our classrooms. We may not be saying this explicitly, but at least we think about it. Okay? So at the end of this session, I want my students to apply this algorithm for the given problem. Something like that. Okay? So now that is what you think. Now that plan, or that is what is your plan, that plan needs to get converted into action. So you think about what exactly, how your students are going to do. So what teachers make students to do to learn this? So they are not just by sitting, they are not going to understand how to apply this algorithm. So teacher will plan certain activities. Okay? And the third part, obviously, without this, our teaching learning process is incomplete, which we call as how to measure whether what students have achieved. So have they really learned? Unless that there is no feedback which is going to go to them as well as to me. Okay. So these three are the basic, you could say, the corners of what we call as our teaching learning process. This is what we call as triangle of effective learning. So whole process we try to design this way. So what is this? This is what we define, what we call as learning objectives. So at the end of this session, what is that my students will be able to do, demonstrate. Next is how to measure what students have achieved. That is assessment part of it. And the third important aspect obviously is this. That is instructional activities. What my students will do in the class to learn what I want them to learn. So whenever you make your lecture plan, you have to keep these three things into mind. It's not possible for us to individually focus on this because we have so many other lectures planned. But again, material related to this has been already shared on Moodle. So if you have any doubts, you can go through them. Okay. So, I had asked you one question in the Google form which was circulated. I asked you to, last question, pick up any small topic and just tell me or, just share that how you are going to teach that. So these are some of the answers that I picked up, just, hardly 5 to 10% of the answers. So now you will understand what change you will have to make in what answers you have already written down or already you have submitted in the pre-workshop form. See, obviously there should be some change in what you were doing before this workshop and what you will do after this workshop, right? Am I right? That's the reason we all are here, right? So let us try to see how we should bring this change. So these are 3 points that you should try to include. Specify learning objectives. Make it explicit, what your students will be doing to learn. So what kind of activities you are planning for them and in what way you are going to assess your students. So basically these 3 points are nothing but the triangle that I showed you: learning objectives, instructional strategies and assessment. That completes your teaching learning process. Okay, so this is one visual representation of, one of the ways how you could plan your lecture. Whatever may be the change, what you find here. So you could say that, this horizontal line is a time axis, right? So what you find is that this is time, 10 to 12 minutes, 3 to 4 minutes. So one important observation what I want you to have immediately here is, we will not go on lecturing continuously for 1 hour. That is of no use. So therefore you have to think what should be there in between which will help students to learn better. There is some kind of pre-wrapper, something that has to happen before you start your session. Allow some time for students to reflect upon whatever has happened in the class. That is how you should conclude. Okay. So this is what we called as book and lecture template. Okay. Now let me come to some other parts of it. We hope that after going through this 5-day session, you will be able to implement some active learning strategies into your classroom when you go back to your institutes in the coming academic term. Okay. Now, immediately after this lecture, many times we come across these myths or misconceptions what faculty get is, that means my entire 60 minutes has to be an active learning, which is not the case. So not that your entire 60 minutes lecture has to go in active learning case. There will be some time when you will have to share some information with the students. Secondly, if suppose you are conducting 40 lectures in one semester, that doesn't mean that all your 40 lectures should be designed for active learning. Because why not? For the simple reason that it takes time to understand how to design your lecture with active learning. Your students also require some amount of time to learn in active learning mode. Let me give you a very quick example. All this time, as a traditional teacher, we have been telling our students to keep quiet in the class. Am I right? After every 10 minutes, you will say that please keep quiet in the class. Pay attention to what I say. Are these not very common statements that we say as teachers? Now, when you implement these activities like peer instruction, TPS, you are now allowing them to talk. They're not used to it. So give some time to them so that, otherwise they will think that what is she? She's out of her mind. At one point of time, she tells me to keep quiet. On the very next moment, she is telling me now talk in the class. What is happening, right? So the way you need time to, implement active learning strategies, your students also need. And one way to address this is, beforehand, tell them that we are going to learn in a different way. Make them stakeholder in this process. Tell them, let them be aware of what is happening in the class so that they will not get surprised. So maybe even if in one semester in 40 lectures, suppose you are able to carry out at least, for a beginner, at least 2 to 3 such sessions, I would say that will be a great achievement, because you yourself will learn from your own experiences. And another third important point which we normally convey to teachers, that it's very interesting and motivating if you try to work on active learning in groups. So for example, if you have your colleagues who wants to try some of the active learning strategies, so make a group, be a community. Share your experiences with your colleagues. So I implemented this is what was my experience. Perhaps, this is the problem that I faced. Perhaps your colleague might have some solution, some answer for your problem. So instead of working, as islands, try to be more cooperative, more collaborative, share your experiences with your colleagues, in your institutes, go back and, start this kind of groups where you try to study a particular property, use them, implement them, and share their experiences with each other. So that's the simplest way of growing as a community. Okay, so that's all from my side. Now I have two two things that I want to tell you. On the Moodle, there are 2 files which have been already shared. One is the template. A template is a presentation that has been made for you to help you in designing your lecture plan for day 4. Okay? So go through that as and when time permits, preferably by the end of today, at least tomorrow when you come back. Before that, you must have gone through that template so that you understand what exactly you are expected to do. Secondly, there is another document that has been shared which is called as rubric. So on day 4, we are expected to evaluate you. Not just we are expected to evaluate you, but you are also going to do peer evaluation for your own colleagues. Okay, so therefore for that we have created a document called as rubric. How many of you know what is rubrics? Just raise your hands. Okay, so very few people know this. So rubrics is a systematic way of doing assessment. Instead of me briefing you, let us do this thing, that you go through that document, read that properly, so that will tell you on what basis you are going to get assessed on day 4, right? So once that is done, in case if you have any doubts or something that you don't understand, maybe I should be available in next 2 to 3 days. So if there is anything that is required, we can just have some kind of debriefing session. Okay, so thank you so much for being very interactive participants, and my best wishes to you for the next sessions, and we hope that these 5 days are going to be very informative for you all. Thank you.